Xiaomi has at the moment two very interesting smartphones. They have the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 and they have the Xiaomi Mi 9. And both have a very attractive price tag, very similar as well, but in terms of camera they differ quite a bit. So today we're gonna find out what is the difference, and let's get started. One of the major differences between the two is of course that the Xiaomi Mi 9 has an extra lens, a wide angle lens, and that is something we cannot compare, unfortunately. If you want to know more of the Xiaomi Mi 9, I will leave a link here in the top right corner to my review. Else, let's take a look at some samples. And all these samples are taken at the exact same time, at the exact same location, in the highest resolution possible, and both phones have all of the software updates that are available installed. During daylight conditions, images are very comparable, and even zoomed in at 400%, the results are almost identical. And there's a second lens that allows you to zoom in twice, and at first sight the results look similar. But when you zoom in once again here 400%, there is a substantial difference between the two. In a more difficult situation, with high contrast and some backlight, the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 is having exposure difficulties regarding the shadows, while the dynamic range is very similar. And here's the dynamic range once again better. You can see the clouds are more blue, while the rest of the image have similar exposure and saturation levels. Now regarding moving objects, both do a good job, and the autofocus was fast enough on both to capture this while being on the go. The edge detection for portrait pictures on both is really good. Even if we zoom in 400% again, you will see some differences, but because it's so small and so zoomed in, you won't see them when you're not zoomed in. Major differences are noticeable when it comes to low light situations. There's less detail, it looks soft, and also the saturation is less than the Mi 9. When there's a low light situation, with the light that leaks, the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 tries to balance it a little bit more, rather than overexposing the light source, to keep the details, textures and a more vibrant look. Both phones also have the night mode feature, but before we enable that, the difference is barely noticeable. There's an equal amount of noise and details, but when the night mode is enabled, the Mi 9 produces a lighter image than the Mi Mix that also has more noise, especially if you look at the overhead cupboards. Before we continue, I would like to ask you to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click on the bell icon to get notified every time when there's a new video posted. Now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at that selfie camera, because that is of course super privacy friendly, because you will never be able to get spied on. On the other hand, if you're really a lover of selfies, then the Mi 9 is just a better choice. The Mi 9 selfies are, to be honest, pretty good. In my eyes there's a little bit too much sharpening happening, but it is a very well balanced image. The Mi Mix is lacking some exposure and some saturation, and if you add this in post, it looks, to be honest, a little bit better than the Xiaomi Mi 9. But hey, we're not comparing what you can do in post, but what comes straight out of the camera. And during low light, the Mi 9 is definitely a winner here. It is sharper, with more details, and that's definitely visible when we zoom in a little bit. Here's a little test with these selfie cameras, and you can see that we have a huge overcast. The sky is blown out like crazy. Regarding the microphone, typical Xiaomi problem, as you can hear. And regarding the details, it looks to be better on the Mi Mix, Mi 9, apologize, and the same counts for the saturation of the colors, especially with the red. You can see that it pops way more on the Mi 9, but let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Now regarding the panorama pictures, both do really well regarding the exposure. It is nicely fixed, and only one major thing between the two is that what level is set, the exposure, but other than that it's very similar. If it comes down to video, we record here in 4K video at 30 frames per second. The Mi Mix 3 looks a little bit greenish, but both look pretty decent for 4K footage, and the stabilization on both is also super smooth. So here's a little focus test with some background noises, and as you can see both are pretty fast. It's just that it looks like to be a little bit more noise on the Mi Mix than on the Mi 9. And also they choose a different color temperature, of course, but that is a little bit weird. Also the amount of exposure, especially the darks, are a bit different. Now if you love to shoot at 60 frames per second, the Mi Mix 3 is the winner here because of the optical stabilization. because they both lack electronic image stabilization while shooting at 4K with 60 frames per second. The Mi Mix-3 still has the green tint over the image, and also it has a slightly more saturated look. During low light, the Mi 9 definitely captures more light because of its sensor, but because the Mi Mix-3 its optical image stabilization feature, the footage is not bad at all, because it doesn't have to drop the frame rate, especially since this footage is shot on 60 frames per second. The results are impressive for both. In the end, which one is better is of course a very difficult answer because both have their pluses and minuses. But let us know in the comment section down below which one do you prefer or do you think is better. Now, if I would choose a phone between the two, I would wish that the wide-angle camera is on the Xiaomi Mi Mix-3. I'm not that big of a selfie maker, lover anyway, so for me this is a very good way to avoid some privacy issues in case you're worried about that. And I really like the full screen display. A water drop notch, it is nice, but it's not necessary for me, and a full screen display is so much nicer. But I really miss that wide angle lens because it gives all the images such a nice perspective. But if you want to have the best camera possible, then you should go definitely for the Xiaomi Mi 9. It has a better lens, it captures more light in low light situations and dark environments, and if you're more into that, that is then definitely a big plus. Also, the wide angle lens just gives so much new perspective to images that I really appreciate it and actually like it and use it a lot. So, to conclude, I wish the Mi 9 its camera are placed on the Mi Mix. I just like this whole design a lot. It's a little bit different than the standard water drop notch, and this is just such a nice feeling. I'm almost gonna miss it if I'm not gonna use this one, but rather keep with the Mi 9. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, you learned something. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and then I hope to see all of you in the next one.